Woody's picture there, not the clapboard.
Yeah, it is crowding him a little bit, isn't it? There's one here. There's one over here, too.
It's going to need to talk about water.
Yeah,
rain.
it did.
Not that any one of those has anything to do with it.
Yeah, right. All set? Lisa? Yes? All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's work session to order. The first item on our agenda is the cladding at the community center, and we have town architect David Strabel here to make a presentation. David?
Put a schematic drawing together of cladding just the gym, and here's the same.
Yes, that probably matters there.
I found a system in the original estimate that I gave you was to tear the IFAS off of the building. IFAS is exterior insulation and finish system. And then we clad the building with essentially sandwich panels. However, I found a system that's actually what's typically called a rain screen system, where I could take and put a grid of furring on the building, which is the sketch that's coming around here, right over the existing IFAS system without taking your 4 inches of polystyrene insulation off your building, and leave the IFAS in place. When I do it, I'll also put an infiltration barrier down before I put that grid of furring strips on there, but it's what we tend to call hat channels, that type of furring strip. And they make them that are perforated too, so that if you get any water behind there, it doesn't trap any water, it can continue to drain down. So you end up with a little bit of a gap between the finish of your existing IFAS system, which is stucco, and these furring strips, which I do a whole grid over the whole face of the building. And the attachments, the screws would go all the way through the 4 inches of polystyrene and into the concrete block, so that it's not going to blow off of, it's not attached to your polystyrene. But what this does is it would save removing the insulation from the building and buying new insulation. So there'd be a savings there. However, if you look at the detail, your drawing is the same as here, so it's probably easier to look at your drawing. I drew a detail of the existing gym wall. It's 23, well, it's actually 27 foot tall, but what it is 23, and then there's a band around the top of where the IFAS bumps out by another 4 inches, so you've actually got 8 inches of polystyrene insulation at the top. I can't get screws to go through 8 inches. I can get screws to go through 4 inches without blowing off of the building, but 8 inches is just too much. So up there, I have to build a little, with steel studs, kind of build a framing system around that, or peel that off. So I chose in this scheme to just build a little stick stud out of steel studs, box around that 4 foot by extra projection at the top, and then we could clad that, where in this drawing I'm just showing we're cladding that with vertical steel siding, and then infilling between the piers, which you currently have piers that pop out every 20 foot on that building, and those would be boxed out with the same vertical siding, and then infill in between with horizontal siding. And then the colors, I would stick with the colors that you already have on the building, which are beige and taupe, so or light brown, where the top of the existing stucco is a light brown, and then the walls a real light beige. So I would stick with just a light beige for the horizontal siding and a matching tan for the vertical siding, which actually creates that little cornice, that 4 foot cornice.
So, David, the stucco stays on, or the stucco comes off?
The stucco stays on, and we don't have to take anything off.
Do you have to worry about dampness, or does that absorb wet?
The vapor barrier.
I'm going to put an infiltration barrier onto the stucco,
Okay.
and then screw that grid, which I showed you, the steel grid that's in there. Now that's out of a rain screen detail, so they show a stud ball that is behind, but obviously I can screw that to a concrete block wall. You've got 4 inches of polystyrene on the building now, so my screws are going to be 6 inches long to get through that 4 inches of polystyrene and get a couple inches into your 12-inch concrete block. So, as we put this grid of furring channels up there, we'll put an infiltration barrier on first and hold it in place with this grid of furring channels.
Okay.
We'll actually hold it in place by essentially gluing it to the building, but once I put that grid of furring strips on, it's going nowhere. So then it gives you a little bit of a cavity behind the metal siding and the surface of the IPIS, which will now have an infiltration barrier over it to boot. But this, I didn't realize it was 4 inches thick till I went up there and measured it. So polystyrene is like R5 per inch, so that's R20 is your insulation. The building code, today's building code, which gets bumped up because it used to be R15, is now R20. So that polystyrene still meets code, just the way it is. The only catch is I can't, if I were putting rigid insulation on today, I have to use polyisocyanurate because polystyrene is flammable, but it's pre-existing and it's on a concrete block building. So if it ever did catch on fire for some reason, which is going to be hard to do because you've got a concrete stucco finish over it, it's still got to get through a 12-inch concrete block, so it's not a life safety factor, and the code doesn't say I have to pull it off the building. It's pre-existing, maybe non-conforming to today's code. If I were to pull all the insulation off, I can't put polystyrene back on. I'd have to put polyisocyanurate. So your polystyrene's in the 45 cents per inch per square foot, where polyisocyanurate's like 65 cents per inch per square foot of insulation. So, it's 20% more, but here's the other catch. I still have to pay to peel all that insulation off your building and pay for new insulation and install all that new. And I'm talking, 45 and 65 cents is cost of material. So, we'd be avoiding all the labor cost of taking all that off and putting new insulation on. So that's why I was trying to go. Now, what that does, though, is now I have to follow the profile of the building the way it is. Where the piers are, where that 4-foot strip that projects out up at the top of the building, that's why it looks the way it looks, is I'm just following the shape of the wall as it is. But, it's a simple cladding system, and the intent, too, is that your entry, we did in a dark hunter green panels, and it's a little more architecturally oriented element to the building, where the gym, to be frank with you, is essentially a big box. So if we were just to take and keep the beige and light colors to try to not highlight the gym, but really highlight the entry that's more architectural and completely different color, that's why I would stick with just keeping the beiges that are already on the parts of the stucco that we're keeping. So if you were to go back and look at the estimate and I had X amount for demo and X amount for new insulation, it's not a clean just take it all up, because that's why I was telling you I got to do some stick framing to go around that projection that sticks out at the top, because I can't screw through the 8 inches. It's just too far. So that's where I'm doing a little stick framing. So there's a little bit more cost there, so you don't get the full, whatever, $50,000 or whatever the difference there was with the demo and the extra insulation. You'll get a little bit, 40 of it or something like that.
So we will save $40,000 approximately?
30 to 40, I'll say at this point, because I still haven't detailed every detail. And so I know I'm going to be putting some studs, some steel stud framework on there, besides just the grid of furring strips, because I've got to deal with all that ins and out projections.
So the cost of framing out around the projection at the top of the wall probably increases the cost there,
Yeah.
but then what you're doing on the rest of the wall is a decreasing
All
cost.
right. You can't quite see it, but what's dotted in behind there is the other thing that happens is where the piers are, that 4-foot strip at the top also projects out and goes around the pier. So that's why it jumps out and is even bigger. So I was just, furring out to that point and then shooting it straight across the building like that. It's the furthest projection out.
This is all hand-drawn, Dave?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So before you were talking about these sandwich panels, steel on both sides,
Right.
insulation in the center. So now we're just essentially going with steel over top of this lattice of,
Correct.
so the savings is only 40,000 if we
Well,
do
it might
that?
be a little bit more than that. I've got to reevaluate
Sure.
the estimate because, like I said, the other thing that I want to do when I do this is put up an infiltration barrier, and I'll probably even on the south side cut a few expansion lines before I bury it, just so that
So they can move.
because the heat is still going to be there in the summer.
Right.
You're still going to have the thermal flux that you get on that south wall. Which I showed you guys about how that's why all the cracks are in that is because that wall's taking a big thermal shock. It gets hot during the day, cools off at night. It's 27 foot tall with no relief for its expansion and contraction, and eventually it breaks and stops. Where the 14-foot wall on the south side sees the same heat, sees the same thermal, but when it's only half that width, it can absorb some of that. The 27-foot can't absorb it without cracking.
So what happens to that wall? You have all this stuff on it, but it's still going to get hot. It's still going to cool
Still going
off.
to get hot. So that's
So
why
how
I was
does
saying
it
I'm probably going to put some
not crumble?
relieving, I'm probably going to cut some lines in it before we cover it up with metal into the stucco part of the IFAS system. Just because I know that behind the metal it's still going to want to do this as the temperatures change.
And that will relieve?
It'll relieve it. It'll force the cracks to be where I tell it to.
I see.
And that way I can address the cracks properly. That's why you saw cut joints into concrete. You watch them pour this huge slab, and then they go around and saw cut joints because it will shrink and contract and expand. And when it does, it will crack wherever you want it to. What you do is you saw cut a little. You don't saw cut the whole depth, but you saw cut enough so that when it does crack, it cracks at the weak point, which is your saw cut.
Okay.
Is there any concern over the stability of the polystyrene behind the steel over
That's why
time?
I got to shoot all the way through it. That's why my concern was I can't really shoot through 8 inches of this.
Mm-hmm.
4 inches I can deal with. In fact, the particular manufacturer of that range screen actually makes screws for a 4-inch IFAS system that go into whatever you tell them you're doing, whether it's steel studs or concrete block or wood.
And are you concerned about the polystyrene actually crumbling or falling, within this grid? Could you have any deterioration of the polystyrene over time?
Polystyrene doesn't deteriorate.
Right.
What deteriorates is
It's cohesion.
the bond between the stucco and the polystyrene. Because the stucco is moving at one rate while it thermally expands and contracts. And the polystyrene, very little thermal expansion and contraction, hence it's got really good insulation values. And so it doesn't move much. Now, is it structural? No, polystyrene's styrofoam. I mean, it's not structural. That's why I got to shoot through it and get into the structural concrete block. Well, once I put a whole grid of spring strips up there, with every 2 foot horizontal and vertical, I'm going into concrete block. First of all, the polystyrene's never coming off the building again. and secondly, I've built a new structural system on the surface of your polystyrene.
Right.
So, Dave, the last time we talked in August about this, we were at about 374, and I know you need to go over this again.
Mm-hmm.
And of that, the 28,000 was to remove the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
Are these costs continuing to go up in our current market with all the?
Current construction market isn't going down at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering where we're going to land.
Well,
with
obviously, I'll save a big chunk of the 28,000, and then the new insulation, you had 163, but that was in
That's-
metal panels.
Right.
Okay, so that's the whole system, metal panel and all.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go back and break that out as to if I were doing it separate insulation from metal. Because right now, what I'm doing is essentially corrugated sheet metal, glorified farmer's panels, okay, and vertical seam, which is what you already have on the entryway, is vertical flush seam.
Yeah, which I would imagine would be a significant savings. So I'm interested to hear what you think about that.
I think and that's why I was shooting the ground with this. When I started talking to the dealers of the range screens about shooting through 4 inches of styrofoam, yeah, we can do that. Hey, why don't we look at that and leave the insulation on the building?
Right.
It's more environmentally friendly, not to
Yeah,
waste
I
all
don't
of
have to
that.
dispose of 9,000 square foot of
Yeah.
4 inches of.
How much does a 4-inch screw cost? Times what?
I'm buying them by the gross, so it doesn't matter.
So at this point, Dave, you'd be looking to move on down the proposal you gave us before, construction drawings, bid package.
Yeah, if you tell me to go forward with putting the bid package together, then I'll go forward with that.
I don't see that we have a choice, just because of the state the building's in, to delay this any
This south
longer.
wall's in bad shape.
Yeah,
and I
it
think
could cost us
at
more.
least 3 of you saw it. that
Yeah.
way.
Okay, anybody have any objection for Dave doing construction drawings and doing a bid
We
document?
don't have any
bid
more
package?
baseballs being thrown at the wall. do we?
No.
Now, let me also point out, that's one of the reasons why I was trying to do the bulk of it in a corrugated panel, because it's a little more durable to some of the impacts. If I were to go out there with flush architectural panels, they're
all over the place.
quite, there's a possibility of denting them real easy. If I go in with corrugated, I'm not saying you can't dent them, but you're not going to see it as bad. If I go out there with big panels like the panels on the judge's stand here of steel sheet flush panels, and you throw baseballs at that, it's going to be obvious to the So they're a little more. This is a little less vulnerable to seeing damage.
More durable than sound baffles, for instance, hanging in a gym.
Sound baffles with targets painted on them.
Okay. Thank you, David. And just as soon as you're ready with that, I suppose we may have you back, especially if you've got any numbers or if you're able to get some pricing. Take a look at
I can
that.
look at the pricing. And let me get a little further into the construction details to see if I end up with more framing in different areas. Because, I got to block out around each of the piers, and
Yep.
I got to address a couple of doors and how do we turn around it and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
So, there'll be a lot of details.
Yep.
And then I'll know have a better feeling for just how much steel studs am I buying.
Yeah.
Thank
All right,
you.
and the cost of those services is beneath the threshold for resolution, so whatever you need me to sign, Lisa, I will do so. Okay. Next, we're going to move into the road projects. Now, we had a lengthy discussion last week. Brian provided some excellent information. Was it 2 weeks ago now? 2 weeks, sorry. Has everybody had time to digest that? Any questions, concerns, anything you want to ask Brian?
I thought you did a great job.
Yeah.
Anything at all?
I think we're all in agreement.
Okay.
We
So-
decided which roads and all that, are we discussing that tonight?
Correct, so it'd be the list that we put together last time. East-West Canal Road, Skidmore, County Line, Hollybrook, Town Hall parking lot, the highway front apron, and the one lot the skate park lot.
Community center, just as a preventative.
Yeah, just the cover, yeah, right.
Preventing more deterioration.
Okay, so at this point then, Lisa, you've got to move forward with getting our credit report updated, and then we need to contact Bernie Donigans as well as Tim McGill, the attorney, get them going. Okay? Excellent. Anything else either of you need on the finance or the highway side?
No.
Okay.
And I'm obviously aware there's other roads that are in need also, but this hopefully will allow us to use our normal operating budget for the next few years to try to pick away at those roads, in particular Swamp and Ladue, try to get those in a little bit better shape moving forward.
Can you elaborate on what you might do to those roads? Since a rebuild would be $1 million, what short of that?
Those roads, I had estimates for those to do a recycle type application, like I proposed on those other roads, East Canal Road, West Canal Road, County Line Road. And I think at this point, we will just do either a light asphalt overlay or a cold mix overlay, which is, it's similar to asphalt, but it's installed cold. The material, stone and oil is mixed at our facility, and we truck it on site, and it's laid down with a paver, same application, but it's just not hot, 320 degrees.
How different is that from what you just did to Redmond?
Redmond is a hot mix, so that's
Okay.
Yeah, virgin asphalt. It's a
Got
hot
it.
mix, $73 a ton. Where this would be less than that. It's flexible though. Where the hot mix, it's rigid, it's brittle, so over time it loses its elasticity and it'll break and crack. Where the cold mix is a little more forgiving. It's not used for high traffic applications, but lower traveled rural roads. It's more for applications like that. So in order to improve the rideability, try to bring our slope back on the road so it would drain properly. It's far from being a rebuild, but I think we could prolong the life of it with a treatment like that.
Well, in the rebuilding that, getting the drainage is important for the freeze-thaw cycle,
Yeah,
right?
freeze-thaw, keeping the road clear in the wintertime. Obviously, safety, those water pools in the road and gets in those wheel ruts. It's not safe for cars as they hit those areas.
One of the things, too, that Brian shared with me along the way was that the traffic, I don't think he gave me the specific numbers, but that the traffic volumes, particularly on East and West Canal Road, are significant,
Oh, yeah.
especially East Canal.
Everyone takes us as shortcuts.
Yeah, that's, anybody Orleans County coming the 31 direction will go down that road, West Canal.
Yeah, that's why we chose more of a rehab type application for those two roads. Try to, I guess, prolong them even farther with the amount of traffic they do see.
More work with the curves and the dips and it's not like you're just going on a straight road.
Right. And I'm hoping to work with the Canal Authority on the West Canal Road at least. There's a section of guardrail as you come down the hill from Redmond Road. It's on a 45-degree angle. So I talked to them last year about possibly working together to try to bring that back to where it should be. So it might involve bringing in some fill for the canal bank and trying to build that up a little bit more. And also straightening all the posts and reinstalling some of it.
I don't know if this part is fixable, but there's sections of the parking lot up at the community center closer to the door. So when it rains, you've got a swimming pool that you're running. Like this morning, I ran through it to my car. But, like in the winter, you can get some really pretty good little ponds of water, which can be kind of dangerous up there. And then, like this morning, it made me think of it when it rains so hard. There's some pretty good cooling in some areas.
Yeah, so the best way to fix that, or those problems, are obviously to mill out the whole surface, reprofile it, and
If
add
you had all
another
that
inch and a
money.
half, which we're not going to do, but we're going, in my estimate, I added enough asphalt to go in there and shim up those spots, those lower spots, try to bridge you know, the low spot from high point to high point. It's not going to be perfect by far, just because,
You don't have an unlimited budget?
yeah, it's hard to get the water, you know, from one point to another just by filling a small low spot. You might just move the puddle from point A to point B. So, but we'll do our best to,
Sure.
the larger puddles get those addressed.
Okay, so we'll proceed down that road. No pun intended. So Lisa, if you would work with Donegan's office, getting the documents ready for the financing and our credit rating.
Your seeker resolution will probably come before you do the bond. You'll probably do seeker prior to the bond.
Yep.
In November.
Okay. Excellent. All right, anything else? No? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, we've got sort of a two-part item, IT and the website. I'm going to reserve the IT information for an executive session. We'll do at the end tonight, and it will be under the first exception to the open meetings law, which is public safety. There are some concerns I need to share with the board with regard to our IT system. As to the website, Lori and I, along with Karen and Lisa, I think, is that the group? Pretty sure, 4 of us, met with a gentleman 2 weeks ago today with regard to our website. I think it's been a common concern on the board here that it's become outdated, it's not quite as functional as we'd like it to be. There are issues with being able to get our agenda up in a timely manner because it's not something we can do in-house. And there's some additional functionality we'd like to see on the website. So Lori and I both reached out to the current website provider, our webmaster, for some information. We did actually get a proposal back today, of all things, good timing, for his services in redesigning the website. But the 4 of us did meet with a different website designer, and I happen to know him because he did the website for my firm. I shopped around, looked for a lot of different people. I ended up going with him, was very happy with the results. So he was the first place I checked or invited in terms of looking for a vendor to rehab it. He also sent a proposal. Lisa, do you have copies of that handy? So I want to share that with the board.
Good.
And we'll look through this quote here. Share a few things. So one of the things we talked about was the visual aspect of the website, that it really should be updated and have a more current appearance, as well as the functionality is, I think, below average if you look around at other municipal websites. So what I asked him to work into the quote was a meeting either with him or his staff with every department in the town so that he could find out department by department what people would like on their individual page within our town site. He agreed to do that. He thought that was a great idea. There's a lot of technical tools he could put on there too, things that the assessor could do, which would make it very interactive. Say that again?
It's over my head.
Yeah. So he worked that into the proposal. I also, I had him send a few websites that he's launched recently. The purpose of mentioning that he did my firm website is just to let you know that he's not a friend per se, he's somebody I've gotten to know, but there is of course, no remuneration to me whatsoever for using him here at the town. I just thought he did a great job on mine, and I like his work. So here's. What's up on my screen?
We don't want to look at snow.
Yeah.
The fog was to the ground when I came down from my house.
It's going to be 80 on Saturday. Don't pack your shorts up.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Where's Rob?
Yeah, right, where's Rob? Okay, well, whatever, I have 4 sites up. If anybody on the board wants to take a look at any of those. And then I also pulled up the site that, I don't know if everybody saw, our current provider's email today. Did you see that? And he did put a website, he kind of mocked up a website design on there. So, the cost over time, certainly the cost of the Bash Solutions quote is significant. It's much more than Mr. Bray's, or what is the name of this company? Scenic View? Than Scenic View's quote. However, Scenic View, because they provide ongoing assistance, uploading things to our site, they charge a lot more month by month. The Bash Solutions quote is for $20 a month. The Scenic View is $100 per month. Because the Bash Solutions sites are their design, what they do is they really build into it complete functionality for the end user. So you can go in and make all the changes and edits that you want. It's harder to add page, like if you want to add a wholly new page or add credit card processing or something, you'd have to go back to them for programming. But if you want to upload things, you want to go in, add, delete employees, change the wording on there, put new pictures in, you can do it all yourself, and it's very easy. Even lawyers can figure it out. So, to me, it's not only will it provide us a greater degree of functionality, I think it'll be much more user-friendly for residents, as to every department. For instance, we talked with the town clerk, Karen Sweeting, different things she might want to do on there, have available, maybe online applications or submissions for this, that, or the other thing. It'd be very easy to set that up. And I think
more user-friendly for our communities. They don't have to come all the way down here for things.
Exactly. And I think if you look at the differences in the mock-ups, the designs of the site, I think you'll see something too. I think it's a much more modern feel, the different sites that Mr. Bash has here. Now, with that said, these aren't the only 2 options out there. I know the one very well. The other one we have experience with as a town. So if other people know of anybody that we should quote, we certainly can do that. I think we have a couple of starting points to look at. I'm very comfortable with Bash Solutions. If everybody is interested in that, we can go with that, or we can keep, digging in and see if there's anybody else to use. But I do think, too, in this business, it's hard to compare apples to apples because you have very different styles. Some are just simply get the information out there. Design is not so important, or the artistry of the site, or the look of it. And for some people, then you've got the functionality side. Some sites are not designed to be very functional for the end user or for the customer. So I think it's tough to compare quotes and be exactly right on in terms of what you're looking at. But not asking for a decision tonight, I should add. But I would recommend maybe you take a look at these websites. In fact, I have them all in an email. I can forward it to you so you can look at them at home later or something.
So what would be the next steps, Kevin, if we need to make a decision on just the 2 companies we're looking at right now?
Mm-hmm.
We would have to have a board resolution to spend this money because it's over the $5,000.
For one or the for the Scenic View, we wouldn't.
Right, but for this.
For this, we would, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have to put it out to bid because it's under the $25,000.
Correct. You know what? Were you able to do that financial analysis over time? So here's another thing I asked Lisa to put together. Just so you can compare, these are sort of 2 different approaches to this. Because there's a higher monthly cost, lower upfront, which is common. I have found, people have different mentalities. And what you'll see is in about 7 years, so 2025 is when the sites and the cost reach parity because of the monthly costs. So in 2026, the Bash Solutions quote actually is cheaper. Now this doesn't take into account the time value of money and interest and all that, but just for simple purpose, a dollar today is $1 in 2026. you can see over time, it's cheaper. And certainly a brand-new website like this is going to last us 7 years. This one has lasted
14?
since the Commodore 64. So I think just absorb that a bit, maybe take it home, think about it. If you come up with any other names or any other people, I'd be happy to research them and do the good legwork on that. Try to get a quote that's at least like what we have from one of the existing quotes, or we just move ahead. I think this, because I've done a lot of shopping on this on my own, I think the quote is price-wise is fair, but doesn't mean we can't get more just to confirm that. Okay? Anything else on that or any other questions? Okay. So we've got time. Why don't we do our executive session now? Mr. Oberst will be here at 7 o'clock to go into the update to the water report. So, can I have a motion to go into executive?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll be back in just a bit. Thank you. Lisa, I'd like, if you, yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's appropriate. No. That's what we're talking about?
No, this is for me. I put it up on the internet so that other people can see it. Oh, geez. Okay, show. It's on.